In the heart of the Galactic Empire, the High Council convenes to address Earth's silence in response to their demand for tribute. As confusion and fear mount among the alien leaders, a chilling message from Earth shifts the balance of power. Setting the stage for an unprecedented confrontation, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic High Council shimmered with opulence, its walls adorned with artifacts from conquered worlds. Representatives of the Empire's most powerful species gathered around the central dais, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. 3 cycles have passed since our demand was sent, rumbled High Chancellor Vex, his multiple eyes narrowing. And yet, Earth remains silent. Ambassador Thalk, a being of translucent skin and pulsating veins, shifted uneasily. Perhaps their communication systems are primitive. They might not have received our message. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying the Earth, its blue and green hues contrasting starkly against the void of space. "Our probes confirm their technological advancement," interjected strategist Lorna, her metallic exoskeleton, reflecting the chamber's light. "They've colonized their moon, sent missions beyond their solar system. Their silence is deliberate." Murmurs filled the chamber. The idea of defiance was unthinkable. No civilization had ever ignored the Empire's demand for tribute. Suddenly, the chamber's central console beeped. A message originating from Earth's coordinates had been received. The hologram shifted, revealing a human figure clad in a simple uniform, standing against a backdrop of stars. His gaze was steady, his voice calm. "To the Galactic Empire," he began, "we received your message, your demand for tribute." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "Earth does not bow. We do not pay tribute. We do not recognize your authority." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "The audacity," the human continued. "If you seek conflict, know this. We will not initiate war. But if war comes to our doorstep, we will respond." He leaned closer, his eyes piercing, with silence and fire. The message ended. The chamber was silent. High Chancellor Vex rose, his voice trembling with a mix of rage and fear. "Prepare the fleet. If Earth seeks fire, we shall rain it upon them." But deep within, a seed of doubt had been planted. For the first time, the Empire faced a world unafraid. The bridge of the UNS Caldera was silent, except for the faint hum of quantum cores spinning in cold vacuum. Captain Arun Batra stood motionless, hands behind his back, staring out the forward viewport. Earth hung in the distance, beautiful, small, vulnerable. "Still nothing from them?" he asked without turning. Lieutenant Reyes swallowed. "The Empire's scout drones have gone dark, all 7, simultaneously. EMP net worked." Batra exhaled slowly. Phase 1 successful. Mark it. Below, in the bowels of the ship, engineers in graphene suits walked through corridors lined with matte black drones. Coiled beneath reflective shielding, the fire they promised waited, nanite-laced fusion warheads capable of pinpoint decimation, delivered by graviton skippers the Empire hadn't seen before. The intercom crackled. Dr. Keiji Watanabe's voice filtered through, sharp and clipped. "Captain, the spectral cloaking held during test run, the drones are invisible across the whole. EM band and neutrino signatures. They'll never see them coming." "Good," Batra said. "No broadcasts, no boasts. We say nothing more, not a word. Let them wonder why the dark is moving." On the other side of the galaxy, the High Council argued over data feeds corrupted by static and silence. Each scout they sent past Saturn disappeared. No explosions, no signals, just gone. "They're jamming us with a technology we can't detect," strategist Lorna hissed. "No," said Chancellor Vex grimly. "They're not jamming. They're not doing anything. And that is far worse. This is deliberate absence." In the shadows of Europa's ice crust, a human listening post picked up a brief FTL ping. An Empire recon frigate deploying a dropship. Sergeant Kim Doss of 3rd Orbital Special Operations flicked her visor on. A hologram lit the room, showing the descent pattern. "Let them land," she muttered. But Sergeant the comms tech started. "No, let them taste soil. Let them think they have a foothold." Her jaw set. "Then bury them in it." The frigate's crew disembarked. 6-legged creatures in gold-trimmed armor surveyed the rocky field with contempt. No resistance, no welcome, just wind, dust, and then silence. One of them stepped forward. His foot caught something metallic, a soft chime, and then the world. Inverted, gravitic ripples tore them apart from the inside out, body fluids boiling, armor collapsing inward. A crater formed where they stood, perfectly hemispherical. A single word burned into the stone beside it. Understood. On the caldera, Batra nodded as the alert cleared from his console. No return signal detected. 0 survivors. Again. Dr. Watanabe's voice was quiet. "How long until they stop probing?" Batra turned to Reyes. "Launch 3 drones toward the edge of the system. Make it look like we're evacuating Mars." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "A bluff?" Batra's eyes were tired. "A lesson. The Empire believes tribute is the language of power. Let's teach them silence." He turned back to the viewport. In the reflection, he saw not Earth, but the reflection of stars. Closer now. "Let them come," he whispered. "We don't flinch. We don't shout." He pressed a key on the console. On screens across every hidden base, a single phrase appeared: "Do not speak again. Watch." And they watched. As the void began to answer, the Empire's 3rd Armada emerged. From slipspace in a wave of fire and arrogance. 77 capital vessels, 4,000 fighters, a dreadnought the size of Australia. They called it Divine Gravity. Behind it, dozens of slave worlds watched the stream in reverent silence. Admiral Rexu stood at the command node of his flagship, a cold-blooded wall of bone and muscle wrapped in ceremonial carbon plate. His spines twitched in disdain as Earth rotated below on the main display. No planetary shields, no fleet, no orbital defenses. His translator clicked out each syllable like an insult. "They have nothing, and yet they threaten us." The bridge crew chuckled, even as sensors pinged against emptiness. No response, not even a challenge code. A technician hesitated. "Admiral, there's a distortion on our lateral array." "Define." It's like the stars themselves are bending around nothing. Too late. Above them, space cracked. The first of Earth's Spectre-class drones dropped cloak and ignited. Invisible before, undetectable, silent, still, they now bloomed like malevolent. Seeds of annihilation. One by one they emerged, not from hangars, but from folded vacuum itself. 42 black objects accelerated without flare. No thermal signature, no comms, just motion, precise, silent, deadly. "Evasive maneuvers," Rexu howled. The command. Ship pitched hard, but motion meant nothing to what followed. The first Spectre connected with the dreadnought escort. No explosion, just sudden stillness. A gravitic pulse snapped the ship inward, folding bulkheads like paper. The vessel imploded, not from heat, but absence, like it had been erased. The second one split mid-course, breaking into a swarm of directed nanite threads. They wove into a patrol ship's engine bay, cracked the fusion core with surgical coordination, and vanished before the blast reached them. Chaos bloomed across the fleet, but Earth still did nothing. No broadcasts, no demands, no victory call. Admiral Rexu watched another cruiser vanish, crushed like tin under unseen fists. His throat clicked in disbelief. "They're not fighting us. They're just removing us," someone screamed on the bridge. Not. A soldier's scream, an existential feral sound, a realization. They don't want us to surrender. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, a small chamber pulsed with blue light. 3 human commanders stood in a triangle of glass, watching telemetry flow across curved screens. General Imani crossed her arms. Spectre swarm effectiveness at 96%. Minimal loss. Commander Akiro nodded. No comms? None. Not a word. She looked at him. We built this protocol in silence. We launch in silence. We finish it the same way. Colonel Griggs, gaunt and silent till now, stepped forward. We were labeled primitives, but no civilization that survives on a death world is ever truly primitive. His fingers tapped a pad. In orbit, the last 5 spectres detached from their holding pattern. They circled the divine gravity. Rexu stood frozen in his command shell. The drones did not attack. They hovered, waiting. Why aren't they finishing? Us, a crew member sobbed, because mercy was louder than destruction. One drone dipped slightly like a nod. Then all 5 peeled off and vanished. On Rexu's display, a single message remained. This was not war. This was a correction. He sank. To his knees, somewhere far below, a human voice whispered into the void. We warned you. Smoke drifted through the upper layers of Earth's stratosphere. Not from human cities, but from the remains of what the Empire had once called untouchable. Vaporized ships, molten wreckage, metallic skeletons tumbling end over end, silent. In their disintegration, Lieutenant Jia Cho floated above Earth in her exosuit, tethered to a stealth maintenance platform hidden just beyond Luna's orbit. She turned slowly, helmet visor gleaming with the light of debris fires still burning. Cold in vacuum. Spectre sweep complete, she reported, breath slow. No survivors, all black box data fried. They'll never know what killed them. Mission control on the surface responded in monotone. Understood. Observe wreckage only. No recovery. No transmissions. Gia narrowed her eyes. You think they're still listening? We assume they always are. From the edge of her HUD, proximity alerts blinked softly. Not a ship, no, something smaller. A pod. It tumbled through the ruins, unmarked, damaged, but alive. Inside it, a single alien officer, trembling, eyes wide, breathing rapidly through. A cracked mask, one of Rexu's lieutenants. Cho paused. Her gloved hand hovered over the remote detonation trigger for the auto-defense grid. One tap and the drifting thing would vanish like dust. She didn't press it. Instead, she opened a channel. Audio only. The alien's head jerked up. Static hissed. Then a single human voice reached him. You are not a prisoner. You are not a threat. You are a message. The pod's thrusters activated. Autopilot seized control and pulled him out of Earth orbit, not toward safety, but toward the edge of the system. A controlled retreat. Mission control came on again. We're letting him go? No. We're sending him back. He saw the fire. He'll explain the silence. Below, on Earth, the world still looked normal. Cities buzzed, oceans shimmered. Civilians never knew just how close the blade had come. But in bunkers beneath major cities, the fire protocol was still greenlit. Just in case. In Nairobi, a child walked with her mother past a public memorial. No names, no statues, just a wall. It had only one inscription, carved in 36 languages. We speak when necessary. The little girl looked up. Mom, what does it mean? Her mother smiled, but her eyes were tired. It means we waited until they touched the matchbox. And then she looked at the sky. We reminded them who invented fire. Out in deep space, the escape pod exited Sol's influence. Imperial recovery ships picked it up 2 days later. Inside, the officer was comatose. They thought it was physical trauma, radiation, decompression, neural damage, but the scans came back clean. His brain was intact, just quiet. When he finally spoke, he whispered the same words again and again. They did not conquer us. They did not chase us. They let us go. Back in the Empire's core worlds, that story spread. Not officially. Never in records, but in whispered council halls and in the private rooms of emperors, a new fear grew, not of war, but of humanity's refusal to wage it. The galaxy now knew something new and utterly terrifying. Earth did not beg. Earth did not scream. Earth simply replied with silence and fire. Across the Orion cluster, Imperial communications fluttered like moths trapped in glass, short bursts, half-coded, contradictory. The official story changed daily. Some said Earth was quarantined, others that a virus had wiped out the Third Armada. Still others whispered the humans had ascended into a technological god race. None said the truth. In a shadowed embassy orbiting the gas giant Thera, envoy Velres of the Threx Dominion, one of the Empire's subjugated allies, watched the decrypted broadcast again. The human drone did not speak. It simply hovered in front of the Third Armada. Then it left. No threats, no conditions, just implication. "What are they?" she whispered. "What are they becoming?" "They've always been this," said a voice from the darkness. Her aide, Mektal, pale and shaking. "We just never noticed. We thought silence was weakness." "Because we mistake sound for power," Velres said, standing slowly. "And they don't shout. They just remove." From behind them the feed jittered, static, then a new signal, not Earth-Mars, not a probe, from humans, but not a message, an offering. Blueprints, not for weapons, for medical tech, gravity stabilizers, food printing modules. Velres stared. Why? Would they give this to us? Now, Mektal swallowed. Because they know we're still watching. Far away on Earth's moon, Admiral Batra reviewed the probe's transmission log. No reply expected. No acknowledgement given, Reyes confirmed. "You think they'll take it?" "They will. Fear is one thing," Batra murmured. "But fear without hope leads to desperation. Desperate empires do reckless things. So we give them something. We give them purposeful noise, a whisper after fire, enough to make them ask not what we can destroy, but what we might build." He stared out the lunar viewport, watching Earth spin in silence. Let them wrestle with it. In the Empire's core sector, chaos bloomed. Dozens of races began breaking tribute chains. Local rebellions cited Earth's defiance as proof the Empire could be resisted, and through it all, Earth remained mute. They did not lead, they did not command, they simply stopped reacting. And that vacuum, that awful stillness, was louder than any battle cry. Back on the Threx homeworld, a symposium was held in secret. Velres stood before the council, elders who had served the Empire for centuries. She displayed Earth's gift, not a virus, not a weapon, a cure for atmospheric corrosion that had plagued their cities for years. "They know we're listening," Velres said, voice steady. "They want us to listen," one elder hissed. "And if it's a trick, then we die cautious," Velres snapped. "But if it's real, then we no longer need to be slaves." Silence followed, not fear, not reverence, silence of decision. At the edge of Sol's heliopause, a human drone drifted quietly. It received no commands. It was not a spy. It was just there. Its final recorded transmission before self-deletion was one sentence. They heard the silence. Now they wait for the sound. And far across the stars, in broken ships and crumbling halls, species began asking the most dangerous question of all. If Earth did not kneel, why should we? And behind the stars, fire waited again. Quiet, patient, unspoken. The Empire's oldest archive vaults, carved into the obsidian heart of the world moon Zeltor, had only been opened 4 times in 10,000 years. On the 5th, silence preceded the unlocking, not ceremony, not song. Inside, scholar-priest Jexon sifted through crumbling records, glyphs etched on photonic wafers long abandoned. He was searching for something long denied. A mention of humans not as primitives or tribute debtors, but as something older. He found it in a black case sealed with 7 warning sigils. a fragment from an extinct species. It showed Earth, primitive, wild, burning, but above it hovered something strange, a structure in low orbit, from millennia past, too advanced, too large, too human. Jackson stepped back, spine clicking with dread. "They've done this before," he whispered. "They've started over before. On Earth, buried beneath the Sierra Nevadas, a black site lit up with activity, the Aurora. Relay, once mothballed, now activated, funneled deep space signals through the crust itself. Inside, Dr. Roshan Malik keyed through encrypted records only accessible after Fire Protocol Phase 3. He wasn't looking for warheads or weapons. He was looking for timelines, and what he saw made him go still. Jesus. Beside him, Colonel. Griggs looked over. "What?" Malik turned the monitor toward him. "That wasn't the first armada." Griggs blinked. "Say again?" "We've erased 2 others, earlier, pre-FTL humans. They came before we had gravity drives. But we didn't. Someone else did. Or maybe us, then. We found their tech buried in Antarctica. We reverse-engineered. That's how we jumped. But that wasn't first contact, it was reclamation." He paused. "We're not Earth's first children, just its latest." Griggs stared. Then he smiled grimly. "That's why they're afraid. They think we're new, but we're just the ember they missed in the ash." In orbit around the Empire's capital, Chancellor Vex convened the Senate in emergency quorum. Holograms blinked to life, representatives from 1,000 subjugated worlds, voices raised in panic and denial. "Are you saying they're ascendant class?" one roared. "No," Vex said coldly. "I'm saying they were never beneath us. They simply waited, in silence, until we were too arrogant to recognize the sound of judgment." "And what do you propose?" sneered a general. Vyrex's answer was simple. "We surrender. Not officially, not outwardly, but functionally. We stop sending ships. We let their system darken." He leaned forward. "We let the fire die down, because we do not know how deep it goes." Back on Earth, in a dark chamber lined with carbon strand cables, Admiral Batra watched as the final Spectre drone returned to lunar orbit, all targets passed. All threats withdrawn. Fire had been given, and now it was time to bury the flame again. He turned to Reyes. "Send it." "What message, sir?" "Nothing." "No. Data. No language, just coordinates." Reyes paused. "Coordinates to what?" Batra's voice dropped to a whisper. "To our own ruins. Let them see what came before us. Let them understand." He leaned back. "No empire outlives the fire it feeds. Let them find our bones. Let them realize we're not rising." He turned. "To the dark glass. We're returning." And far away, as the Empire's listening ships received the blank packet with only one set of numbers, latitude, longitude, and a planet name they did not recognize, they saw what Earth had left behind, and they began to understand. Humanity's silence wasn't peace, it was recursion. Fire paused, not extinguished. The dig began 6 days after the coordinates were received. On the ice world of Halem Zur, long thought uninhabited, the Empire sent an exploratory team to the site encoded in Earth's transmission. They were expecting threats, booby traps, perhaps another warning. They found ruins, human ruins, carbon-dated to over 50,000 cycles, older than the Empire itself. Stone fused with synthetic lattice, glyphs etched in a language no AI could decode. Not entirely foreign, just forgotten, like a memory half-buried. Commander Veshar of the Imperial Archaeotech Division knelt beside a collapsed archway. It bore a sigil, a stylized flame, surrounded by concentric rings. Primitive, yes. But underneath the rings, one word. Stood etched in a dead language the Empire's oldest translation banks barely recognized. Terran Veshar turned to his second. This world wasn't theirs. It was them. Then, they were here? They were everywhere, he whispered. Another explorer called out, "Sir, you'll want to see this." Down a shaft of ice glass and bedrock, an enormous chamber had been exposed. At its center, fused to an altar of obsidian, was a corpse, human, mummified by time, wrapped in metal and memory. Veshar leaned in. "What is that on his chest?" The emblem wasn't military. It was civilian. Scientific, a nameplate, barely legible. Dr. Harlan Kurishi, Project Emberfall, a data core, blinked in the body's outstretched hand. Veshar activated it. No encryption, no trap, just a voice, garbled but unmistakably human. 2. Whoever finds this, we were here before. We touched the stars and we burned it all, so we buried it. We left Earth to forget, so we could earn it again. If we've returned, then either we deserve the stars or we were provoked. The recording ended. Silence reclaimed the chamber. Above, the sky burned orange as Halamzur's sun dipped into eclipse. Veshar stood slowly. We poked a god and found its skeletons. Back on Earth, inside a mountainside vault, Colonel Griggs read the recovered transcript from the Halamzur site. His hands trembled. "You seeing this?" he asked. Admiral Batra nodded. "I am." They found Qureshi. Batra looked away. "He wasn't supposed to be found. The Emberfall initiative was erased." "No," Griggs said. "It was planted." They both stared at the map slowly zooming outward on the wall screen. Dozens of old sites, dead worlds, shattered moons, abandoned machines, all Terran, all older than Earth's first recorded jump. Griggs exhaled. This wasn't vengeance. This was a test, and they failed it. The Empire's inner councils fractured. How do you fight a species that has already buried its gods, that chooses forgetfulness over glory, that let itself grow vulnerable on purpose? One chancellor wept in private. "We thought them backward, but they are a fire restrained, a weapon that waits." No declaration was issued, no new fleet launched. Instead, old tribute routes fell silent. Surveillance relays blinked off. Empire-wide command shut down Earth-facing protocols. The silence was not just Earth's anymore. Now it echoed both ways, and through that silence, comprehension spread, because Earth didn't send vengeance. It sent a reminder they had burned before and chose to begin again. In the vacuum between stars, a single vessel moved without heat, without mass signature. No transponder, no propulsion trails. It was Terran, and it was ancient. Inside, Commander Elia Nasser of Earth's Deep Memory Corps stood before a wall of light. The living archive. The walls pulsed with the voices of old Earth, rebellions, sacrifices, victories, buried under centuries of dust and silence. She closed her eyes. "Confirm transmission packet to Virex Command," her aide said softly. "Confirmed. Begin. To the Empire. We have offered silence. You mistook it for mercy. We have offered fire. You mistook it for rage. But know this. We do not rise for glory. We rise when the bones of the past begin to stir. The message would take days to arrive, even with tachyon compression. But it didn't matter. It wasn't a warning. It was a mirror. At the Imperial War Academy on Varnis Prime, cadets reviewed the battle footage again, frame by frame. The fleet's disappearance, the drones, the pod, the Earth weapons they never saw and couldn't track. "What do we call this tactic?" One instructor asked, voice brittle. Silence. Then a cadet raised a trembling hand. "Dominant nullification." "No," the instructor whispered. "We call it a correction. Earth doesn't fight. It removes the question." Laughter erupted, but it was hollow, because every cadet knew the real test had already been failed, and the lesson wasn't military. It was existential. The humans didn't conquer because they didn't have to. They simply endured until their enemies realized how temporary they were. Above the ruined tribute world of Levrak III, a Threx cruiser orbited in mourning. Velres stood alone on the bridge. Below her, cities burned, not by Earth's hand, but by the Empire's retreat, a dying world. Another example of what happened when the wrong power faltered. Her aide spoke softly. "We have the Earth signal. Open?" She nodded. The hologram unfolded, only images, a child holding a burnt flag, a hand grasping another in the dark, an ancient crumbling stone with a single word etched, "Remember." That was all. Velrys closed her eyes. They aren't giving us weapons, they're giving us tools, but only if we choose to stand on our own. Her aide tilted his head. "Then what is the message?" She turned to the stars. "It's not a promise. It's a challenge." On Luna, Batra stood at the observation deck as the last fire satellite, designed for orbital sterilization, was decommissioned. A ritual gesture, not strategic. Reyes stood beside him. "We really pulling?" "The teeth? No," Batra said. "We're showing we no longer need them to smile." He tapped a pad. A signal went out to all Terran colonies and outposts. Reintegration phase active. Contact permissible. Monitored sharing allowed. Let them see what we've built. Not what. "We can burn," Reyes nodded. "And if they test us again," Batra's face hardened, "then they'll learn the fire never left. It simply learned control." In the deep void, a dying probe from a distant empire intercepted the final burst of Chapter 8's signal. It had no processing AI, no translation banks, but its last sensor captured the final image of the broadcast, an ember held in a human, hand unlit, unthrown. Beneath it, silence is a mercy, fire is a choice, and in the still dark between galaxies, a shadow flickered and watched. In the crystalline citadel of the Empire's high Theos court, Chancellor Vex stood before a quorum of 12, ancient minds, hive-bonded, immutable, and for the first time in generations, afraid. "You come bearing confession," one of the 12 rasped. Vex nodded once. Clarity. A hush. They did not rise with fire. They rose from beneath it. The humans knew silence would make us lean in. That fire would make us recoil. They didn't retaliate. He stepped closer. They withdrew. And in that vacuum, they made us see ourselves. Another of the 12 leaned forward. "And what do you see?" Verex's breath caught. "We're an empire of noise, and they are doctrine by absence. They erase tribute, erase war, erase need. And what's left," he shuddered, "is judgment." Above Europa Station 4, the science vessel Nomad Wake orbited in silent observation. Inside, Dr. Roshan Malik monitored incoming Empire packets, curious, trembling pings. They weren't military scans. They were questions. "Why do you not expand? Why did you stop us? What do you want?" He stared at them for hours, hands unmoving. Reyes arrived behind him. "They're unraveling." "No," Malik said quietly. "They're discovering." He tapped out the response packet. "Not encryption, not misdirection, just clarity. Tell them, we do not seek to rule, we do not seek to be followed. We only seek to not be disturbed. We are building something after Empire. You may witness it, you may learn, but if you interfere..." He paused. "We'll show you the rest of what we buried." In the deep orbital belt of the Ark's Valiant system, a delegation ship from the Varathi Republic, a once willing vassal of the Empire, activated its interspecies comms node. Velrys of Threx stood beside the Varathi elder. "They say the humans are preparing to open 3 border gates." "Why?" the elder asked, voice full of old dread. Velrys shook her head. "Because they know we need to see it. Not Earth, not weapons, not power." Her voice lowered. "We need to see what restraint looks like." Below them, a gate flickered to life, fold space shimmer washing over their hull. Through it, no warfleet emerged, just transports, civilian, carrying libraries, seed archives, medicine. The Empire had never sent anything without a flag stamped across it. The humans sent nothing with names. At the heart of Earth's old orbital debris field, the last relic of a forgotten war slowly turned. A broken station. Cold and cracked, a team of Terran engineers arrived in silence. They did not rebuild it, they tethered it, turned it, and aimed it outward, its sensors no longer searching for threats, but watchers. When it detected movement, observers cloaked behind dead moons, it did not power a weapon. It broadcast a single pulse, a frequency used only once before, the signal from the first alien envoy who ever touched Earth's sky. A greeting, and, embedded inside it, a human proverb: the tree of peace grows best in scorched soil. The Empire's internal comnet flooded with debate. Some believed Earth was planning psychological conquest. Others believed Earth was divine. Most simply didn't understand. And that was the fear. You cannot predict what you do not comprehend. You cannot fight what does not engage. You cannot enslave what never wanted your chains. So the Empire stood still, uncertain. Because the humans had created a new doctrine, not of dominance, but of withheld destruction. And that was more terrifying than conquest ever was. In the depths of the Empire's vault city Varkash, the Council gathered once more. Shadows stretched across their faces as they debated what had become the greatest mystery in galactic history. The Terran silence. General Krev stood, his armored frame casting a long silhouette. We launched every fleet, every probe, every drone. No response but silence. Now gifts, tools, refusals to engage. This waiting is a weapon. A council elder hissed, "Waiting is passive. What can it achieve against our firepower?" Krev's eyes glinted. Waiting erodes certainty. It forces doubt. It forces us to reconsider every assumption. We do not know if Earth is building or dismantling. We do not know if their silence masks weakness or strength. The chamber murmured, uneasy. On Earth's moonbase, Admiral Batra stood over a holographic map, glowing softly in the dim light. "Waiting is a choice," he said to Colonel Reyes, "and so is silence." "Do you think the Empire will strike?" "Again." Batra's gaze was distant. "They don't know what to strike. We haven't offered a battlefield. We've only given them questions." Reyes tapped the map, highlighting Earth's old ruins scattered across the solar system, ancient Terran colonies, abandoned, forgotten. "Maybe that's the point," she said. "They see our past and wonder what we're truly capable of." Batra nodded. "We carry the weight of waiting, but we carry the fire too." Far beyond the reach of Empire scanners, in the shadows between stars, a small outpost hummed quietly. Commander Elia Nasa activated a secured channel. "Message received," she said, eyes sharp. "The Empire is fractured. Their fleets withdraw. But the question remains, how long can waiting hold the galaxy at bay?" Behind her, engineers prepared the next phase, a new generation of cloaked probes, designed not to hunt, but to listen. Ilia turned. "We must be ready for when the silence breaks." Across the stars, in a hidden colony world once loyal to the Empire, Velres paced the halls of her ship. The ember of rebellion sparked anew in her eyes. "They underestimate the power in restraint," she told her aide. He frowned. "But silence is dangerous. It breeds fear and chaos." Velres smiled, cold and sharp. "Exactly. It is a storm hidden beneath calm seas, and when it rises, no empire will stand unchanged." Back on Earth, under the cold gaze of the stars, the last of the Emberfall archives sealed themselves. Dr. Malik whispered, "We are not just survivors. We are guardians, not just of fire, but of the silence between." The silence was no longer empty, it was waiting, and within it humanity's true power, a promise, a warning, and the question the galaxy dared not answer. The weight of waiting pressed down on every world, every fleet, every mind. because sometimes the loudest fire was the one never lit, and Earth's silence was ready to ignite again. The horizon of Earth's red dawn cracked open slowly, spilling light over the jagged ruins of the old capital. Commander Elia Nasser stood on the ridge, watching as quiet convoys moved through the shattered city streets. No war banners, no weapons drawn, just people rebuilding. "Why do they keep coming back here?" asked a young cadet at her side. Elia smiled, a shadow of the weight she carried. "Because history is not just a lesson, it's a promise." Behind her, the new Earth fleet prepared to launch, not to conquer, but to explore. Lightspeed vessels equipped with cloaking, nanotech, and sensor arrays designed to listen. Their mission was clear: to understand the silence they'd forced upon the galaxy and what waited beyond it. Far across the stars, the Empire's Senate convened in its final session of the cycle. Chancellor Vex addressed the assembly. "We feared a rising tide of destruction, but what returned was a tide of patience, a tide that demands we rethink what power means," the senators whispered uneasily. Some clung to old ways, but many saw the truth in Vex's words. "The humans have done something we could not. They burned their own empire down, only to rise from its ashes with new rules." Vex's gaze hardened. "We must learn from this, or be consumed by the silence that follows." In a small lab on Luna's dark side, Dr. Roshan Malik adjusted the focus on an ancient Terran data module. It flickered to life, revealing star charts, technological schematics, and, most striking, philosophical treatises on restraint and endurance. "They weren't just fighting for survival," Malik muttered. "They were fighting for meaning." Beside him, Colonel Reyes nodded. "And now, it's our fight to carry that legacy." At the edge of Empire space, Velrys watched a holographic feed of Earth's fleets setting out, unarmed but resolute. "They do not seek to dominate," she said softly. "They seek to endure and to remind." Her voice hardened. "And if challenged, they will ignite, not to conquer, but to defend what silence they have earned." Back on Earth, as the new sun rose higher, Elia turned from the ridge. "Silence and fire," she whispered. "Not threats, not promises, but choices." And beneath that choice, humanity waited, ready to answer the galaxy's question, not with war, but with unwavering truth. "We have survived before. We will endure again." The embers of a new dawn glowed softly, waiting to become a blaze, if ever called upon. The void was vast, cold, and endlessly dark. The Emberfall-class frigate slipped through fold space, a ghost among stars. Commander Elia Nasser stood on the bridge, fingers resting lightly on the console. Behind her, the crew moved with quiet efficiency, every eye trained on the distant horizon. Where unknown threats, if any, might emerge, a soft ping sounded. "Long-range sensor contact," the communications officer announced. "Unknown vessel, not broadcasting ID." Elia's lips pressed into a thin line. "Bring it up." The screen flickered, revealing a silhouette. Alien, yes, but strange. Not aggressive, not hostile, just observing. "Open a channel." Elia said static. Then a voice, ancient and layered with static but unmistakably Terran. "We heard your silence. We saw your fire, and now we stand, not as conquerors nor supplicants, but as equals who have learned the cost of both." The bridge was still. The weight of those words settled like gravity. Elia responded, steady and calm. "We have no desire for war. Only peace, but if you threaten it, you will see what silence and fire truly mean." The alien ship shimmered, then vanished, leaving behind a pulse of recognition. Outside, stars gleamed. Inside, humanity held its breath, because after all the silence, all the fire, the galaxy finally listened. Back on Earth, Admiral Batra watched the feed with a rare smile. "Perhaps," he said softly, "this is the start of something new." Colonel Reyes nodded. A future born from ashes and quiet strength. Batra's gaze drifted upward. The Empire demanded tribute. Earth replied with silence and fire, and in that reply we found something greater, ourselves. The stars had heard. The silence was not absence. The fire was not fury. It was the promise of a species who would never be broken.